These two men were Dong Chul and his best friend, Chun Si. Though they looked a bit like gangsters, both were honest citizens who worked as fish distributors for small vendors at the market. At this place, they regularly came to collect protection money. If the sellers didn't pay, the thugs would get violent and drive them out of the market. Although both of them were angry about the situation, they couldn't do anything. After all, they were just trying to make a living, and even their wages were still unpaid. At that moment, Dong Chul received a call from an acquaintance. The man introduced them to a seafood boss to discuss a potential business opportunity. Specifically, he told them to invest in a product called the Emperor's Goods. After hearing his persuasive pitch and seeing the plump, healthy crabs, Dong Chul and Chun Sik were quickly tempted. In the end, they decided to invest all of their savings into this product, hoping it would change their lives. Meanwhile, Dong Chul's wife, Ji Soo, was a nurse. In addition to this job, she also had to work at a restaurant until late at night. However, the couple still lived very happily. In the evening, Dong Chul drove to pick up his wife, and they had dinner together in the car. On the way home, Dong Chul told his wife that he planned to invest in the king crab business. However, Ji Soo immediately warned her husband that they have been scammed many times by this type of investment, and that the investor was not trustworthy. But at that time, Dong Chul could only admit that he had already given the money to the person. In another development, a loan shark gang led by Ki Tae was trying to break down the door of an apartment. They broke in and torture a man because he could not pay his debt. When Ki Tae was about to kill him to get the insurance compensation, his daughter Soyeon just came home. Ki Tae was immediately attracted to Soyeon and kidnaps the girl to pay off the debt. On the way, Ki Tae's car accidentally hit Dong Chul's car. Luckily, both of them were fine. Dong Chul asked the driver to get out of the car to talk, but instead, he just gave Dong Chul a business card and threw him a stack of money. Considering the matter settled, Jisoo saw that her husband was being looked down upon, so she got out of the car, angrily, to question him. Dong Chul was now busy picking up the money, which made his wife angry, but he only picked it up because he wanted to return the money to the other party. However, Jisoo insisted on calling the police. As soon as he heard the words, "call the police," the driver immediately panicked because there was a kidnapped girl in his car. Ki Tae was fascinated by Jisoo's strong beauty. Then he immediately got out of the car and beat the driver. Ki Tae was now beating him and cursing him for being useless. Ki Tae then made the driver bow and apologized to Dong Chul and his wife and then left. But things did not end there. The next day, Dong Chul went to Chairman Kang's office to ask for the salary that he owed Dong Chul. However, the old man was upset and only gave him a small amount of money. Dong Chul and Chun Sik then had lunch together, complaining about business as they had not heard any news about the ship for months. At this time, Dong Chul received a phone call from CEO Park, who informed him that the ship had been detained by the Chinese government for entering their territorial waters. Hearing this news, Chun Sik immediately understood that they had been fooled again. He left dejectedly without saying another word. At a law office, Jisoo was discussing the issue of bail for her husband. She learned that Dong Chul was still at risk of going to jail if he did not pay the bail. However, Jisoo did not know that Ki Tae's men were following her everywhere. That night was Jisoo's birthday. Dong Chul had reserved a fancy restaurant in the hope that his wife would be happy, but contrary to his expectations, Jisoo proposed a divorce because that was the only way to solve Dong Chul's suspended sentence. Of course, Dong Chul did not agree, even though he knew that Jisoo only wanted a fake divorce. He then confessed to his wife that he had invested in the king crab shipment, using his savings and loans of up to 100 million won. Hearing that number, Jisoo immediately lost her temper and shouted in the restaurant. Dong Chul tried to calm her down. Then he went inside and brought out a birthday cake to appease his wife's anger. But at this time, Jisoo had already left angrily. After arriving home, Jisoo also felt that she had overreacted. She texted her husband to tell him to come home quickly. Receiving the message, Dong Chul was overjoyed. He brought the birthday cake and returned. At this time, it started to rain heavily. Dong Chul's car had to stop because there were two cars moving things in front. He had no idea that they were Ki Tae's henchmen who were deliberately blocking his way home. At the same time, at Dong Chul's house, the doorbell suddenly rang, causing Jisoo to curiously look outside. She was startled to see a stranger looking through the peephole. Before Jisoo could calm down, the locks were opened. Too scared, she tried to run back to her room as fast as she could. At the same time, she used her phone to call her husband, but before Jisoo could say anything, the other guy appeared at the glass door. Immediately after that, he broke the glass and rushed in with his accomplices and took her away. The one behind the kidnapping was none other than Ki Tae. After the accomplices were informed that the mission was over, they left so that Dong Chul's car could move. He finally got home and found shards of glass scattered all over the floor. Both the inside and outside rooms were in a mess, and his wife had mysteriously disappeared. Dong Chul Chul immediately realized that something was seriously wrong and rushed out. But at this point, searching was pointless, as they had long since left. The next day, Dong Chul went to the police station to report the incident. The police reviewed the security cameras in the apartment building, but they discovered that before the kidnapping took place, someone had intentionally damaged the entire camera system nearby. Now Dong Chul could only wait for the police to investigate. As soon as he stepped out of the police station, he suddenly received a phone call from Ki-tae himself. He threatened that if Dong Chul dared to come to the police station again, he would kill Jisoo. At the same time, Ki-tae left him a business card, and he told Dong Chul to meet him at the meeting point. He then went home and found the business card on the refrigerator. With no other choice, Dong Chul went to a restaurant as agreed, while Chun-sik prepared his tools and waited in the car. When he arrived at the meeting place, Dong Chul saw a phone and a bag already placed. Just as he was waiting for Ki-tae, the phone suddenly rang. It turned out to be Ki-tae's kidnapper. He did not show up directly, but left some cash as payment for Jisoo. Dong Chul was very angry when he heard that he wanted to buy his wife. Immediately after that, he discovered a suspicious man. Without hesitation, he picked up a baseball bat and followed. Both he and Chun-sik immediately followed and blocked each other's path, but when they confronted each other, they discovered that they had mistaken the person. With no other choice, Dong Chul and Chun-sik brought the money to the police station to report it. Dong Chul put his hand on the bag and explained the incident. After a preliminary investigation, the police thought that this was a case of human trafficking. However, when they saw the money, their eyes lit up clearly. Their attitudes began to change. They told Dong Chul to go home and wait for news for now, because the leader was in a meeting. When the superior returned, they would take fingerprints and continue the investigation. But at this moment, Dong Chul felt like fire was burning under his feet. As soon as he saw the sign with information about the missing girls, it had been so many years and the police still hadn't solved case. Realizing that the police here were useless, Dong Chul was determined to solve it himself. The first thing he did was to go collect the money that Kang owed him, but not only did he not pay, he also loudly kicked him out. Normally, Dong Chul would let it go, but today he couldn't hold back anymore. Dong Chul immediately attacked and beat up his underlings. One by one, he beat their faces to a pulp. After seeing his underlings lying down, Chairman Kang was also scared and paid Dong Chul. After receiving the money, he and Chun-sik went to see a prosecutor named Gion Sayang for help. However, when he confirmed that this was a human trafficking case, he refused to participate. Dong Chul was annoyed and wanted to leave, but Chun-sik advised him to go back, because this prosecutor was the best in the field of tracking. To convince Gion Sayang, Chun-sik took out their king crab contract and promised to give Gion Sayang 5% of the profits. Seeing the amount of 100 million won, he thought the two were big business and immediately agreed. Gion Sayang began his investigation by checking the surveillance cameras at the restaurant to identify the person who brought the bag of money earlier. Gion Sayang then pretended to be a police officer to approach and collect information. They finally identified the owner of the car as Man-sik. The group immediately went to his house to question him. Man-sik then confessed that he sold the license plate to get money for gambling. Dong Chul and the others went to the casino that Man-sik had directed them to. There, he asked to meet the owner to ask about the person who bought the license plate. However, the owner quickly realized that they were outsiders and immediately called her underlings to handle it. Detective Gion Sayang was angry again. He stepped out to show his skills, but was beaten up by them. At this time, Dong Chul had to take action. He easily dealt with each of them. Immediately after that, a fearless underling rushed forward to attack Dong Chul, who was immediately thrown onto the wooden table by Dong Chul and dealt with the rest. After dealing with everyone, he immediately went to the owner's room. She also realized the danger and tried to run away, but the owner was still one step behind Chun-sik's legs. Without beating around the bush, Dong Chul got straight to the point. He asked the casino owner about the owner of the car, but she herself did not know who the buyer was. However, the casino owner had a business card left by that person. Immediately, the three of them continued on their way, following the clue from Dong Chul's business card to a club. However, the owner on the business card had moved away 2 years ago. Everything they searched for today came to a dead end. Just when they were desperate, Dong Chul suddenly saw a familiar car. He tried to remember and realized that it was the person who appeared on the day Jisoo went missing. Without hesitation, Dong Chul asked the man to get out of the car, but the man immediately recognized him and drove away. Dong Chul broke the car window and tried to catch the man, but in the end, he let the man escape. Not long after, Dong Chul received a call from the police station. They informed him that there was a body of a woman the same age as his wife. Dong Chul was very panicked when he heard that. He trembled as he looked at the photo and breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, the victim in the photo was not Jisoo. The woman in the photo was Lee Young-dong, a victim who had been missing for for 2 years. A few days later, Dongchul and Chun-sik met Jeon Sayang again and learned that Lee's husband had turned himself in after his wife's body was found. The man confessed that he had sold his wife to Ki-tae's human trafficking organization. At Lee's funeral, Dongchul and Chun-sik had the opportunity to talk to her husband. He said that when Lee was seriously ill that year, he had been by her side taking care of her, which touched everyone. Unexpectedly, that act of love caught Ki-tae's eye. He deliberately forced him to meet and bribe his wife with money. In a moment of fatigue and despair, he agreed to sell his wife. After hearing Dongchul talk about Jisoo, the husband gave him some documents, saying that they might contain clues to help find Jisoo. Not long after, he also chose to end his own life. Dongchul discovered that the business card in the documents matched the one the driver had given him. Without hesitation, Dongchul immediately went to the loan office. Without asking much, Dongchul rushed in and beat him up, then dragged the driver to Jeon Sayang for interrogation. In another place, Ki-tae was watching everything through the camera. When he saw Dongchul catch his subordinate, he immediately called him on video. On the screen, Jisoo was being held captive and brutally tortured. Ki-tae coldly gave a condition. If he wanted Jisoo to survive, Dongchul had to kill the subordinate. Seeing his wife being tortured mercilessly, Dongchul had no other choice and followed suit. Only when the subordinate fell did Ki-tae feel satisfied. He then gave a condition that Dongchul had to bring his money to ransom his wife. Right after the call ended, Dongchul suddenly woke up the subordinate. It turned out that he was still alive because Dongchul had only temporarily tightened the artery, causing the driver to faint for a few minutes. Being spared by Dongchul, the driver immediately became obedient and confessed everything. His name was Do-sik. Do-sik revealed that Ki-tae was actually a delusional psychopath. He had a habit of kidnapping young women for any reason, then training and selling them to the wealthy, and in some cases, even using them for organ trafficking. After learning this information, Dongchul began planning a way to retrieve the money from the police station. He teamed up with Jeon Sayang and Chun-sik, and together they disguised themselves to trick the police and recover the evidence. Meanwhile, at Ki-tae's hideout, Jisoo saw So-yeon being beaten and rushed to help her. She ran into the room across the hall and kicked the attacker between the legs, knocking him to the ground. Right after that, Jisoo tried to escape with So-yeon, but the two ended up getting trapped. Then the room they had just entered had been locked by other victims out of fear. On this side, Dongchul had already started the plan. It seemed like everything would be impossible, but it went quite smoothly. Jeon Sayang and Chun-sik entered the station in a neat and tidy manner, and the guards warmly welcomed them because they thought they were their superiors who had suddenly arrived. When the two were about to take the basket of money and leave, the policeman became suspicious. He asked them to show their IDs, but they were refused. Having their identities exposed, Jeon Sayang and Chun-sik both raised their hands in surrender. Seeing this, Dongchul had to detonate the police car to create a distraction. Thanks to that, the two friends were able to take the money and escape. On Jisoo's side, So-yeon was now unconscious because the other guy had hit her too hard. Ki-tae went crazy when he saw his goods had been damaged. He kicked the guy a few times and then grabbed a stick and started beating him over and over. Still furious, Ki-tae got a call from Dongchul. Dongchul told him he wanted to meet and trade money for his wife. Ki-tae agreed, but told his men to kill them all after getting the money. Meanwhile, the police had found out that Dongchul was the one who started the fire. Dongchul immediately said he would turn himself in after saving his wife. At the same time, Jisoo and So-yeon tried to escape through the window. Jisoo managed to get out, but So-yeon was caught. Jisoo quickly jumped across to the next building, ran out to the main road, and flagged down a car. The driver didn't understand what was going on, but he still took her to the police station. Just as she got out of the car and started running, another car blocked her way. It was none other than the creep Ki-tae. Dongchul arrived at the meeting place and drove straight into the car. At this time, they were transferring the victims to another detention center. When Jeon Sayang and Chun-sik attacked them, they took turns beating them, then they both took the girls to safety. Meanwhile, Dongchul entered the building to fight, and with one blow, he reunited this gangster with his ancestors. Dongchul also discovered the room where they locked his wife through the camera. He moved to the upper floor in a flash. At this time, a junior of Ki-tae blocked his way. Dongchul slammed him against the wall like a cockroach. As soon as this person finished, another one arrived, but he was not afraid to fight. Ki-tae's junior inside also saw the wall shaking violently. He quickly locked the door and prepared a dagger to attack. But before this gangster could attack, he was knocked unconscious by Dongchul. Seeing his comrade lying motionless, the remaining opponent immediately launched a counterattack. Judging from the way he moved and the force of his attacks, one could see that he was not ordinary. But no matter how good he was at punching and kicking, he was still restrained and defeated by Dongchul. As soon as he went out, he ran into a group of people holding weapons. citizens. Although Dong Chul did not want to fight with these people, he had to. After a while of tiring fighting, Dong Chul finally finished, but Ki-tae's juniors still did not let him go. Dong Chul ran into a guy who was even fatter than him. This guy's fighting ability seemed to be quite good. Dong Chul initially underestimated the opponent, so he was beaten until he was bruised. After punching and kicking, the opponent continuously attacked, leaving him unable to defend. After suffering enough pain, Dong Chul could not bear it anymore. He grabbed the fat guy and lifted him up, causing the ceiling to break. Then Dong Chul dragged him a bit and threw him down. As soon as the fat man was trying to sit up, he was punched and knocked out on the spot. Knowing that time was running out, Dong Chul quickly went to where his wife was being held. Not long after, the police also arrived at the scene to arrest the criminals. Dong Chul still hadn't found his wife, so he drove the police car to look for her. On the way, Dong Chul met Ki-tae's car. At the same time, he had just received news from his juniors that the police had arrested everyone. Ki-tae heard that and immediately noticed the car in front of him and recognized Dong Chul. He thought he was a policeman, so he quickly ran away. Dong Chul also recognized the person who was about to rush forward, one person advancing and the other retreating. The driver driving Ki-tae's car was also not an ordinary person. He could reverse like that. Not long after, Dong Chul's car also hit his car. The car immediately turned 180 degrees and then sped away. Another chase continued. The two cars increased their speed and skillfully weaved, but for someone who wanted to save his wife like Dong Chul, nothing could stop him. Dong Chul accelerated to full speed and crashed head-on into Ki-tae's car. Seeing the dangerous situation, the cowardly Ki-tae immediately used Jisoo as a shield. As soon as he saw his wife Dong Chul, clearly worried, knowing that he could not force his enemy to die, he tried to speed up to block his path. Dong Chul tried to block the front of his car but failed, so he had to brake suddenly, causing Ki-tae's car to crash into the back of his car, and at the same time, Ki-tae's head hit the front. During the fight, Dong Chul's car had an accident that caused him to slide down the hillside. Although the car was badly damaged, Dong Chul was still lucky to survive. Ki-tae was also mad at the pain at this time. He got out of the car and brought the axe with him. Then Ki-tae continuously swung the axe at Dong Chul, but he quickly moved to avoid the slashing positions. The more he slashed, the more Ki-tae lost control. He got mad and jumped on the hood of the car to force Dong Chul to come out. However, he lost his guard when he lowered his head to look at him. Ki-tae was immediately grabbed by the neck and punched half to death by him. After Ki-tae was kicked out, he knelt down and begged for forgiveness and admitted all his mistakes. Ki-tae put a knife to his neck, intending to end his life, but it turned out that he did that so that when Dong Chul wasn't paying attention, he would stab him. However, before the knife could reach him, Dong Chul caught it and twisted Ki-tae's arm, causing him pain. He also gave him a few more punches, causing Ki-tae to collapse. Finally, Dong Chul ran to Ki-tae's car to save his wife. After that, the two hugged each other and cried like rain. Dong Chul was exhausted and collapsed on the side of the road. Not long after, the ambulance and police arrived. The human trafficking case then became a topic of discussion everywhere, and Dong Chul was the one who eliminated the entire criminal gang. In addition, the TV also reported that King Crab ship had been released by China. At the end of the film, Dong Chul took his wife to a restaurant in a Mercedes. The girl So-yeon, who was kidnapped earlier, was also working at this restaurant. Meanwhile, Chun-sik and Jeon-sang were the ones in charge of management here. In the end, was able to give his wife a full life. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.